think the first memory I have of my problem with weight loss, or with weight in general, was when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I finally really registered my baby pictures. Even as a baby, I was quite chunky. There were rolls everywhere. And you know, when you're a newborn and when you're a tiny, tiny infant, those things are cute. But as I grew older, it became apparent that I was going to struggle with my weight. And to be honest, I can't tell you why. I don't know if my mom fed me too much. I don't know if the rich Colombian diet was what did it. The point is that starting from a kid, from infancy, I was overweight. Thankfully, I never hit an obese point. And actually, I may have in the 6th grade. It just goes to show that throughout all my life, this thing has been a ghost that's haunted me. I remember in Colombia, we would have block parties, and my mom would restrict me from eating. And so what I'd end up doing is I'd just go and hide and binge eat later. I remember things like in the 6th grade, you know, I would have just had dinner, and then I'd immediately go and make a sandwich and hide and eat it, going so far as to hiding a sandwich in the trash because I heard my mom coming home. And then I dug it out of the trash later and I ate it, and I cried and I cried and I cried because I couldn't believe I had just done that. So I think my struggle over the years has been more than just eating a few extra calories. I think I always used food as a crutch for my emotional problems. And it wasn't until really when I was in the 10th grade, when I was in high school, that I found my love for weightlifting. Up until then, I had never exercised. I had maybe done some crunches and push-ups when I had taekwondo classes, but I quit those pretty quickly. Back to the beginning of my journey, though. When I first started lifting in high school, the change in my body happened immediately. I was still eating crap. I didn't know any better. But I had a fantastic teacher who taught me how to lift. We did Olympic lifts, we did machines. It was wonderful. And slowly but surely the fat started melting off and everybody was noticing the changes. Even I was. I had a 4-pack for the first time in my life. And I let it get to me. And I slacked. And I stopped going to the gym. Because at the time, I asked my mother to give me a gym membership for my birthday. I thought I was okay, that I could stop and that I could go and eat anything I wanted and I'd be fine. And unfortunately, I gained everything back. Again, because I was using food as a crutch. The years passed and I yo-yoed up and down. It wasn't until really recently that I started working with a life coach who taught me most of all how to love myself, that I really understood my relationship with food and all the trauma that came with it. As in 2017, I tried the keto diet. I thought, as an endomorph, you know, I'm going to benefit from having lower carbs, and eating all that fat is going to rev up my metabolism and I'll be thin in no time. I was still in the mindset of wanting to be skinny, not strong. So I was eating probably 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day with less than 30 grams of carbs. I was terrified to eat. I didn't know what macros were. I was starving myself. And slowly but surely, I lost all the personal records that I had set from previously weightlifting. See, oh man, I skipped a big chunk. I think it was 2014 or 2015 that my best friend and I, and he's a big dude, he lifts. He started training me just as a friend. I started learning more about the complex movements, learning more about isolation training. And then I made the mistake of getting on phentermine, and I got so ripped and so thin. I was down to 172 pounds at my lowest, but I stopped taking the phentermine and I gained it all back. Let that serve as a lesson that they don't always work, those little magic pills. Not to mention it messed up my anxiety, my depression. Pretty soon, I found myself plummeting into a dark hole. In 2016, I lost my house, and I ended my longest relationship with my high school sweetheart. I used food as my crutch once more, and I completely left behind my exercise regimen. I skyrocketed back up to 191, and from there, I realized that I had to control myself or I was going to end up being obese. This is where it gets hard, because I feel like I've blocked out so much of my journey because of all the pain it's caused. And the saddest part is that that pain is self-inflicted. I would call myself names. I would pinch my fat. I remember there was one time in the 6th grade, I grabbed the flab from my stomach and I thought, what if I had a knife? I could just cut this off and I could see all the fat. You know, as I worked with the life coach that I mentioned earlier, she taught me that in order to be able to see food and to see exercise as my friends, I had to love myself first. Using an app for people recovering from from eating disorders, I taught myself to eat at least 6 meals a day, and to use mindfulness tactics to remind myself if I started having bad thoughts that, I'm human and that I only have one body and that I shouldn't abuse it with negative words. That's not going to get me any thinner, any fitter, or any more beautiful, that I already was beautiful enough. Shortly after starting my work with Ellen, that's her name, I started working with a trainer, Desi Coleman. With her, I spoke about all my fears. I told her the truth. I told her about my binging. I told her about my starving. I told her about my alternating between the two of them, and that's how I had been able to manage staying at around 187 or 186 throughout the time, throughout the remaining time in 2016. And so we started working together, and as an online client. She set up my macros and set up my workouts for me. She already knew that I had a lot of experience lifting weights, but she made me start from ground zero. I had messed up my body with the keto diet. I had gone from being able to squat 200 pounds easily to barely even able to do 135. So I started out from zero all over again with Desi. She had me doing resistance training. In fact, I still am, by choice. And I've seen a progress in my body that I have never seen before. And it's taught me an even better and even more important lesson: patience. We all expect to work out and eat healthy, and then boom, within 2 weeks we have the perfect body. What even is a perfect body?